everybody. Joel Norden.
Chuck Beeson.
And today we are reviewing a movie for Patreon request.
Yeah.
And the movie is The Fallout.
The Fallout.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. Obviously.
Obviously what?
There's spoilers.
Oh, yeah. We can start slow, I imagine. Do you think? Or we're going to have to jump right into the spoilers?
Seeing as the movie didn't start slow at all.
Okay, well, here, we'll do this. So we jumped into this blind,
Yes.
and
I had no idea what to expect, and my goodness, at about the 7-8 minute mark, it slapped me in the face.
yeah, same. And so essentially, it's about a school shooting, and then the butterfly effect of that school shooting. And all in all, I mean, everything was done really well. Like, the characters felt real.
Yeah.
And that was actually kind of weird because at times you're like, it felt odd the way they were acting because it felt like real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they were like real people doing random things, kind of.
Yeah.
It didn't feel scripted.
Yeah. The reaction, like the response in the acting that was portrayed was damn near spot on.
It was, yeah.
Like they did really well with that.
And for me, I obviously have never lost anybody to a school shooting or been involved, like, you know what I mean? Whereas,
luckily, we haven't had to deal with any of that.
But I have lost somebody, and like a lot of the grieving processes in that were just so accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we can dive into spoilers here if you want. Just go from start to end.
Yeah.
Okay, so
right off the bat,
it was. Yeah, at first I was like, okay, this is a drama. And I'm watching it because I didn't really know what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up with our girl peeing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be kind of a...
This is weird.
The beginning of it, I thought maybe it was going to be more of a... what's that called? Breakfast Club? Is it Breakfast Club, the movie? Where like all the kids are stuck in...
I know.
You know what I'm talking about? I think it's Breakfast Club. I could be completely wrong.
I think you're right. Stuck in the cafeteria.
Yeah, they're stuck in
or detention.
And they got to get to know each other.
It's been a long time since I've seen Breakfast Club.
I thought maybe it'd be something like that because obviously they were in the school a lot in the beginning. And then,
well, just right off the rip, like my first thought, I was way off.
Yeah,
because it opens up with a girl peeing. I was getting Shameless vibes.
Shameless? I've never seen that.
I've only seen a handful of episodes of Shameless, but it was like...
Just like kind of over the top, like crude, kind of weirdly. Yeah. It was really...
when you open up with somebody peeing, it's...
Yeah. It's either normally like comedy or like it's just a little...
Or it's going to be super crude.
Yeah. And really was not at all.
No.
It was just kind of realistic all the way around. It was almost kind of like in-your-face realism.
Yeah, and then the little sister jumping up on the counter.
Yeah.
Annoying the older sister, obviously.
And like I said, everything felt so natural.
Yeah.
At first, like I said, it just took a second to get into with the, it didn't feel super scripted the way they were acting.
Right.
So at first I was like thrown off, but then as you were getting into it, and that's why when the school shooting actually happened, I was actually like,
the second I heard the first pop, I'm like, what?
Well, yeah, I was like, what the hell just happened? And then it was like the same reaction they were having in the movie, obviously on a lesser extent, but it definitely slapped you in the face and didn't really hold back. I mean, it was like, it felt terrifying.
Yeah. And then when the guy ran into the bathroom, with blood on his shirt, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. And I mean, that part is really brief, and thankfully it didn't go into crazy details because especially with the current time that we live in,
the fact that we're having too many,
it was a little too realistic for. Yeah. So I'm glad that it was kind of like the kids.
One is too many, but
my wife watched it with me as well.
Okay.
And she was like, "Oh, this is what this is about," and so she was a little worried that I was going to go like further into
I'm really glad that we didn't see any of the like they kept. It didn't seem like they had too many actors or actresses in this movie either.
Yeah.
They kept it to what was it, like 8, 9?
Yeah.
Maybe 10?
It was very selective.
Yeah.
But I think it was well done because of that.
I agree.
And
because if they would have went over the top, you've been seeing too much gruesomeness in that kind of scenario.
And as a parent, same with my wife, and it was nice not to have to see, or that, whereas like, you know, some movies would go into that, but it was very well done. The whole scene felt, you know, realistic, and it was true. It's terrifying, but then the rest of the movie is kind of the fallout, right? Is the stuff
the fallout of the event.
And this is what I thought was really interesting, because when you hear about a school shooting, you think, oh shit, another one, right? And it's like, you know, you think about the people that died, but you don't really think about the people that survived and what they're going through.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed different directions that some of these kids, like, it felt natural too. Like, you know, you had a few that were like, okay, we're gonna push to make gun laws a little stricter and like fight for that. And then there was other people that just didn't know how to handle it, and they, like, you know, abused drugs or alcohol and just didn't know how to handle it at all.
And then the
felt very real.
The main character exhibited so many.
Yeah.
Like, you had, you know, she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She didn't know anything.
She's at a loss. Yeah.
It was shut down for a while, and then it was drink, and then it was smoke, and then it was ecstasy.
Yeah.
And then it was what she was like, sleep around, basically going for.
Yeah, exactly.
It was all sorts of
she went through
things going
whole
through it.
Wave of different things, just trying
and
to cope.
abandoning her little sister kind of things, and then trying to come back to her little sister later.
That is something that I felt was very true to grieving, at least in my
100%.
experience. Not that you push them away fully or meaning to, but you do without, because you're trying to deal with your own shit. You're trying to deal with your, like, especially in that scenario in the movie,
100%.
because you're like, she dealt with it, but the rest of the family didn't. So the rest of the family made that more awkward because they're human and they care for her, right? And so, like, things were just clunky is the best way to put it for the household. And I think that's rather true. Even when, like, for example, with my sister, like, we were all grieving, like when my sister passed away, but it was even though it was like a shared grieving, at the same time you still did that where you pull into yourself,
right?
And you're trying to cope with it, and then so sometimes you push away a little bit, and so like I said, the grieving process in that movie was very realistic. And
going to the psychiatrist. I mean, I had to go to a psychiatrist for when my brother passed away.
Yeah,
but it was. If I would have been able to go into it with a mindset like the character did, where you can kind of you make a messed up joke to try to get through it, you know, that kind of stuff, I think it would have been better for me. But
did you fight the therapist as much as like she did in the movie? Out of curiosity,
I didn't go back.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So yeah. But I thought that was a very.
It felt like the therapist was trying to pry into my feelings, which that's their job.
Yeah, they're trying to.
But it felt like more of a pry than a. Let's just have a conversation, and that was
when
the problem.
Especially when you're young, you feel like everyone's not out to get you, but especially in that scenario, you're like, hey, this is my shit to deal with,
right?
Whereas now we're older, and you're like, hey, therapy's great, helps you straighten your shit out, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I was a 14, 15-year-old kid,
exactly.
So it was like, whoa,
and so I mean, it was a hard movie to watch in that aspect.
But it also fit so well.
It did, and. It definitely shined lights on like PTSD too, like some of the effects of that, and like what I really liked was how I don't want to say the movie got brighter towards the end of it.
I love the way the dad handled it.
The dad handled that shit like
towards the end.
Yes, and
obviously you don't know what you're doing during the beginning of it all while it's all fresh.
Exactly, and so but at the end, like he like coped with her a little bit, right? And they kind of got some release, I guess is the best way to put it. For some of the, I don't really know how to. Because at the end, then she was like feeling positive. Life was turning around for her. She was figuring it out, and this is where I was like,
she was getting through it.
Yeah, and then
moving forward,
the movie kind of ends on she gets an alert, and it's about another school shooting, and then the PTSD smacks her in the face, and that's how the movie ends.
Because it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Every time you hear about something within that realm, it'll always bring that up.
So I guess with that being said, I think the movie is super powerful.
Yeah,
it did a really good job of being realistic without showing things that it didn't need to show.
Yeah.
But I do not.
And it definitely stayed away from the things. Like, it just stayed away from the stuff that it didn't need to show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you got the complete idea of what it was.
You got the tension. You got the fear. You got the feeling right in your gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but that being said, this is one of those movies I think you watch once and you're like, yeah, I don't need to watch that again. You know what I mean? Like it's
unless you're showing it to somebody else.
Yeah, that's different. But I'm saying like it's one of those you're like, that's a hard watch.
Yeah,
it's worth watching. Great quality. Definitely, like you said, there was some parts where I noticed like I felt like the other family wasn't being utilized exactly, like the actresses.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was a limited budget there, but it wasn't enough that
it
like,
kind of felt like it for a little bit of it, like not super limited budget, obviously, but just a little less than what you're going to get from your bigger movies. It wasn't budgeted like that.
Right.
There was a lot of, it was like, I felt like there was 5 main characters.
Yeah.
I felt like there was the main character girl. There was the guy that came into the bathroom.
Yep, the guy that survived, and then there was the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there was the old best friend.
Oh yes. Yep.
And
the other
and
guy.
the little sister.
And the little sister. Yeah.
The little sister. The most powerful thing she did was when she went in there and she was
at the very end
couldn't sleep towards the end.
Couldn't sleep,
and she was blaming herself for her sister being in the situation.
And the sister was kind of pushing away without realizing it, doing like we were talking about the grieving thing, and she didn't quite understand it and it scared her, right? And then
and then she's telling her,
and that was a very powerful moment too.
Yeah, it was, especially when she's like, if I didn't text you, then you wouldn't have been in the hallway or in the bathroom at that point in time. You would have never been in danger. And then obviously the admittance of everything and getting everything finally off her chest.
Yep, actually communicating with your sibling there, right?
Yeah, and then the part where she went back to school.
Yeah.
And she couldn't.
And she was like, she
couldn't go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yep.
And then she stepped on the pop can, and then her crotch was wet. So I'm like, did she pee herself?
Yeah, I think she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why she was cursing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all in all,
because she couldn't go to the bathroom because.
Yeah. So she was holding it.
Yeah.
Because the whole.
And the pop can just. Released it.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, when you go through something, it makes it very hard to go back into the same area that you were in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for me, it was like I don't want to say wonderful movie because that's not fitting for it. But like I said, it was powerful. It was moving. It was terrifying. But it's not a movie I think I'd go back to.
It's an eye opener.
An eye opener. Yeah. And it touched all the right issues. I think it kind of touched on the gun control issues in a very roundabout way, right? It wasn't like in your face.
It wasn't pushing gun control. It was pushing.
It was
from what I caught. It pushed a lot of mental health as well. But yes, obviously there was a little bit of.
I think it was just
splash in there, but
it was because of the branching of what each kid did differently.
Yeah.
There was the kid that was fighting for gun control to make things a little bit harder to get guns so this didn't happen again. And then you had the other kids that were coping with their mental health.
Right.
And so like you got a whole lot of
and then there was the guy whose brother was shot.
So he was like
he was pushing forward.
Yeah.
He was all about, okay, we got to move forward.
This is what my brother want me to do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And that was a very powerful side of that character. The other the girlfriend or the other girl, she was very life stopped.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
It hit her and it stopped everything. Yeah. So
her dads didn't mind, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And
her dads are a little bit of
I did kind of like that they threw a little bit of that in there too. Some of the, you know,
like
two dads kind of that stuff flavor in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously they were traveling for work, so they were never really around. But
that was my only issue with them.
You didn't get to see them?
No, I was like, piece of shit. Like if my daughter was in
I'd have been home.
I would have been home in the fucking closest.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, if I got to quit my job to go home for stuff like that, then that's what I do.
If your job doesn't understand, I'd be telling people to piss right off.
Yeah.
So that was a little frustrating.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that was also part of her life stopped because
she didn't feel like she had anybody.
She had no support from any family member. So
and that's also why I don't know if I would call it girlfriend in that scenario. Because
then it
seemed like they were friends.
Yeah,
they had an encounter because they were both obviously grieving and weak and drunk.
Right. But I think the reason that they ended up being like, I guess maybe not girlfriend, but like kind of together was because like they addressed it
Yeah.
And it said, hey, do you feel stupid? And then they continued.
Right.
With like, you know what I mean? That romantic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It felt
I
like,
can see that.
felt like when you're first dating a friend and then you like let's say you're both drunk and you make a move on each other and you're not like, doesn't go real far, but a kiss. And then the next day you're like,
shit,
fuck.
You could definitely tell that had an effect because then the main character, she ran off. Veda.
Yeah,
that's
Veda.
her name. Veda. Yep. Veda just stayed away from her for what seemed, I feel like, was like a week.
Because not only was she trying to handle the grieving process, she's now handling this mess that she has caused herself. You know what I mean? But that's why I said I love how realistic.
And then she's messing with it because she kissed the other guy.
Yeah, but I just love how realistic it was because every person had their own grieving process in that movie.
Absolutely.
And then there was, like I said, everybody handled it differently. And all in all, I enjoyed the movie, but I don't think I'd rewatch it again. But I would definitely suggest it. Like I said, it touched on all like the right issues. It didn't.
It'll show you what a lot of the PTSD symptoms can be.
Yeah,
especially from something like that.
Yeah. PTSD, mental health, depression, the grieving process. Yeah. And you're right. I don't think it was gun control exactly, but it definitely was like
I felt like there was a splash, but there wasn't a lot.
There was the issue of what can we do
to keep guns out of school.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a huge issue.
It is a huge issue. Yeah. I'm not a
I did thoroughly, I guess, enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like that style of movie should be more of what we, like an educational video.
Yeah.
That was a much better educational video than what we grew up with.
Yeah, I get, like just like the warnings and stuff about stuff.
Yeah.
And did you have a video? I was homeschooled.
Oh, yeah. There were nothing about with that kind of stuff, but there were educational videos in school at times.
Did you guys have drills? Like for that kind of stuff when you were in school? No? Interesting.
I had a bomb threat at my school one time.
Bomb threat and fire drills and stuff, right?
It was fire drills is what we always did, but we did have one bomb threat at school when I was younger.
I don't know.
And we evacuated.
Do they do active shooter?
They did not when I was younger now.
Do they do it now? Do you know?
I would assume.
You would think.
I would feel very safe.
Knowing that they were doing something like that.
I would feel like they would, and if they're not, they probably should be.
Yeah.
Which, it's very sad, and I don't like that that's a thing.
No, it shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, at the same time,
yeah,
it's a thing, unfortunately, in
America.
It is. Yeah. But yeah, shout out to our Patreon. That was a very enlightening movie.
Yeah.
And like I said, what I enjoyed mostly from this movie was, if you tell somebody, oh, it's about a school shooting, right? It just, I don't know how to put it. It just,
it's about a lot more than
it's a lot more. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That school shooting was honestly it was a major part, but it was such a minimal part.
It's about, you not thinking about the people that are harmed by it as well. It's like when you see a headline. I mean, it's crappy, but everybody's so busy lifestyle. You see a headline, you go, oh shit, more people died, and you're like, that's terrible, and you feel bad about it, but you don't ever think about the people that lived or empathize with them, and that's what this movie forced you to do.
Yeah,
it said, hey, you're gonna understand what happens to these people afterwards.
Yeah,
and it was indeed eye-opening.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, realistically, anytime I saw a school shooting thing come out, obviously I thought that's really sad, but I never really put a second thought towards it.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Because life.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it was always like that, but watching this movie definitely, if I see something else like that, it's going to be like, whoa.
Yeah, you're looking at it.
Now it's a lot. It's more.
Yeah.
Obviously it was already bad before, but now it's so much
It
worse.
forces you to look at it that way. Yeah, absolutely. But I would recommend it.
I would highly recommend it.
Yeah,
yes.
I would definitely recommend it if you have not seen, to definitely check out The Fallout on HBO. And again, shout out to our Patreon for showing that. We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Should we do ratings or just probably skip the ratings for this one? I think it's just easy. The recommendations are easy enough because it's a hard one to rate because of the content. But I think the quality is good, and everything felt realistic, and it's a recommendation for me. So I'd say that says enough.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think that everybody should watch that.
Agreed.
Just once.
Yep.
But I believe that everybody should watch that.
Yeah, definitely gives a different viewpoint from that whole issue, especially if there's people that are, when it comes to that kind of issue, they act like it's a political. You know what I'm saying? Like like all this now they're going to use it towards this.
It gets turned into some kind of political propaganda.
Yeah,
and that's what happens with a lot of tragedies, and it's sad because
I think that goes back to you're seeing a headline, and you're not looking into it, and you're not empathizing with the problem, and this forces you to do that. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys again.
Thank you,
Charles Beeson, Joel Norden. Until next time, peace out.
Peace.